Who needs this win more? The Chiefs, a Chiefs team that has not beaten Joe Burrow, that we are going to, I'm already sick of it, and we've barely got into this week of nobody giving the Chiefs any credit, but they deserve. Hey, as much as we get annoyed about it, this isn't even people having to stretch to make this take. They have beat us. We have not beaten them. I get that. Who needs this win more, though, for legacy type purposes? I know everybody wants to win. I get all that. But is it a Chiefs team that people doubt whether or not they can beat this Bengals team? Or is it a Bengals team that, for going to the Super Bowl, getting back to the AFC title game, was still seen as the number 3 by most people? It's not just the biased Chiefs son. It was Bills were the favorite. Chiefs were right behind him. And then the Bengals were just that other team. Who needs to win more?
I love this question because obviously both need it, right? That's the beauty of it. If I have to pick, I kind of want to say the Bengals just because of everything I've said all season long. Guys, you're not supposed to make the Super Bowl this year. Like when the season began,
been consistent.
When the season began, the Chiefs were not supposed to make the Super Bowl. Now, of course, Mahomes has had an MVP season. The defense has gotten better as the season has gone along, and obviously the young players have been really they have been developed at a rate that is truly commendable from the coaching staff based on what the front office did and sort of identifying those traits and obviously finding ways to acquire them in the draft. They don't have Tyreek Hill. Like that's still a fact, right? Like I know Travis Kelce was awesome, was obviously at Hall of Fame levels in Saturday's game. But I do think the pressure is more on the Bengals. Patrick Mahomes is not healthy. He's not fully healthy. Joe Burrow has been the second best quarterback in the league in the second half of the season. You go through every stat, every metric. It is just like, man, this dude is playing lights out. They are in a situation where they're going to be where the Chiefs are probably in at least a year or two from a cap standpoint because Joe Burrow still on his rookie contract. Jamar Chase still on his rookie contract. Hey, T. Higgins still on his rookie contract. Obviously, they invested a little bit in the offensive line in the offseason. They have really nice veteran players. I call them red chippers. They do not have a blue chip player on defense at any level. Trey Hendrickson is like kind of their best defender, but sometimes I'll think, oh, it's Logan Wilson. And then other times I'm like, man, Cam Taylor-Britt is like really good for a rookie. I don't know who their best player is on defense. Maybe it's Mike Hilton just because he can provide obviously coverage and obviously, being in the box and being just as good as like L'Jarius Sneed does for the Chiefs.
That dude is everywhere. That's the guy that I talked about earlier with Matt Miller. It's like, I know he's probably Jesse Bates would be another guy that you can consider their best player, the safety. To me, it's Mike Hilton because he's absolutely, I don't think grading wise, any of that he's going to grade, but he is, in my opinion, their most valuable. He's always around the ball when they're blitzing, doing a lot of the creative stuff that their defensive coordinator does. 21 is the one that is making it happen. Very similar. I wouldn't say similar in play style because Tyrann Mathieu, I'm not going to compare anybody to that guy. But if you're looking for a person that just kind of everywhere does a little bit of everything, to me, that's Mike Hilton, their slot nickel cornerback, number 21. It's everywhere.
But they're red chips because they're obviously talented, but they're just technically sound. They don't miss a ton of tackles. They're always in the right position. Some third downs, it's like you said, Mike Hilton is coming down and he's going to be in attack mode. Sometimes it's Von Bell playing the robber role. Sometimes he interchanges with Jesse Bates, which is similar to what Spags does. Lou Amaruno, their defensive coordinator, sometimes he obviously drops back 8. That's what worked, last time in the AFC Championship game, in particular in the second half and overtime against Mahomes. Other times, he'll walk 7 guys up to the line of scrimmage, and you cannot tell who's coming based on either the tendency, the time in the game, and obviously the down and distance situation. So they are coached really well. They are not necessarily system players, but they are quality players who do rely on one another and are able to feed off of one another in terms of their roles or their dualities at times. I think the pressure's on the Bengals just because they're going to have to go through the roster churn mechanisms that the salary cap just forces upon you. And Joe Burrow is going to now command top flight money. There might be a time in the next 18 months where Joe Burrow is making more money on a per year average standpoint than Patrick Mahomes. That's like the wild thing. But like
based on football money, sure.
Yes, based on and like setting the market and the timing of which you get to it. Does he deserve more money than Dak Prescott? Yes. Does he deserve more money than whatever Justin Herbert gets? Well, Justin Herbert ain't even won a playoff game. So what did, Josh Allen get? Joe Burrow should get that and more. So there might be a time where, the way the roster is built, the advantages they have really set them up to obviously go on a run last year and then this year. And look, 15 is not healthy. I don't know what, I don't know what Rick Burkholder and his staff will really do. Well, obviously, I'll obviously report on this as the week goes on. But if you're going to go on the Arrowhead for an AFC Championship game, what better position to go in knowing that, like, you've beaten the team already? You do have the psychological, maybe mental advantage because you've proven it not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. And their quarterback isn't fully healthy. He's not capable of being as elusive as, extending plays and doing obviously the Mahomes magic that we see. He's going to have to do it a completely different way, in my opinion, versus, every check's got to be right. Every adjustment's got to be there.
Yeah.
I got audible to this, it's because I've done so much film study and I understand my opponent so well that I'm going to find a way to nickel and dime us down the field. And hopefully, to your point, maybe Eric Bieniemy, Matt Nagy, and Andy Reid have some schemes, have some plays that they haven't shown yet where you can really get the ball in space to somebody like Kadarius Toney to maybe get some chunk yardage out of it. But yeah, I mean, I think the pressure's on the Bengals just because they have a team that really stacks up with any of these other 3 in the race, right? I mean, they have a better quarterback than San Francisco. They don't have as many high-level players as San Francisco, but when you look at the defensive numbers, they're not far off. They've obviously beaten the Chiefs before. And I think for the Eagles, the Eagles roster is probably the most stacked from a talent standpoint, but I think the Bengals could be argued as, 1A to their 1B, or they could be right there 1 to 2 when you look at it from top to bottom, 1 to 53.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with anything you said about the pressure that's on the Bengals and the roster composition. And for Mike Brown, the Bengals owner, not notoriously for not spending money. Mm-hmm. I do not see them shelling out money for Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. I just don't see all those guys getting paid. And so in that regards, their window is small unless they have a GM that makes moves like what we've seen from Brett Veach, where it's a rebuilding year and they're the number 1 seed and they go out there and play. But I would argue that there's just as much pressure, if not more, on the Chiefs. And this is an unfair statement. And I'm going to clarify this and I'm going to add this disclaimer before I do. I understand that this is not a fair ask. But for the way in which nationally people have talked about Patrick Mahomes and anointing him because he has deserved it, he has the best start to any quarterback in NFL history. The way in which we discuss him, the way in which he annoys people, saying how many times we see on Twitter, if Patrick Mahomes did that, like the internet would break. Like that stuff happens because Mahomes has earned the right to be that dude. He is him. He is that guy. Beating a team that you've lost to 3 times in a row in the playoffs in your house with a bum ankle is the kind of storyline that people get really tired about hearing with Patrick Mahomes. So in that regard, for a Chiefs team that had everything working against them, I think there is pressure on the narrative that has been placed upon Mahomes and this Chiefs team that we are the team that everybody is gunning for. I said for years, let's not become the Patriots. Let's be nice and not be like these condescending fans that talk down to everybody. And then inevitably, it's not even fans, although they defend it. It's everyone else talking about the Chiefs, which just pisses off every other fan base. And then we become the target. So the narrative being able to say our quarterback, best to ever do it on a bum ankle, still went out and beat you. We just didn't give it to you like we did last year. I think for most Chiefs fans will say the Bengals didn't go take it last year. The Chiefs gave it away.